Welcome after the short break. Sorry for the short delay. Blame Chris Avalon. He was talking a lot about design hierarchies, and from time to time there was this idea going back about doing DLC. That's why I think it's a bit of coincidence, a bit of genius touch to our program that right now we will have Tymon from TECHLAND talking about DLC done right. So please join me welcoming him on the stage of Digital Dragons 2016 with a lot of applause.
Thank you very much. Wow, what a lovely audience. Hi guys, my name is Tymon Smektała. I work for TECHLAND as a producer and a game designer, and I'm here to talk to you about Dying Light the Following, a huge expansion pack for the original Dying Light that we have released in early 2016, Q1 this year. This will be a post-mortem of sorts for the project, as the subtitle says. So I will talk about some things that went right during the production of Dying Light the Following, about some things that went wrong, and how we eventually fixed those things, and also what conclusions we did draw from the project, and I hope we will use those conclusions when we approach making DLCs in the future. So there will be some bits about producing games, about organizing a production of a game, and especially organizing a production of DLCs. Some bits about about game design and design in general. So if you're interested in these topics, I hope I will not bore you for the next 30 minutes. Before we continue, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself so you know who's talking to you. My name is Tymon Smektała, and I came to TECHLAND 3 years ago, and I was happy enough to join the team that made the Dying Light, that made the original Dying Light. I was one of the 8 producers on that project, and I also made some design on that project. But for Dying Light the Following, the expansion I'm here to talk about, I was one of the producers and also a designer, or maybe even a lead designer, because I oversaw work of a couple of designers and also designed some things myself. And the last important bit about me is that this is my first time at Digital Dragons, and I'm lucky enough to be awarded with a lecture in Hall A in front of this great audience, so I'm really nervous. I hope it doesn't show, and I hope, thank you. Basically, I hope you'll have more mercy for me than developers of Dark Souls have for their players. I don't want to see the "you died" message on the screen anytime soon. Oops, sorry, jokes. Okay, so before we continue, I would like to give you a context to the things I'm about to say. I would like to tell you what the situation at TECHLAND was when we finished Dying Light, when we published Dying Light. So the game was very successful, as you probably know. Up to this day, it has been played by more than 8 million players worldwide. It got more than 50 awards, and we got lots of great reviews, with the Steam user rating being at 92% of positive reviews. But when you complete a project like that, when you complete a project as Dying Light was, it always is a milestone for the company. It always changes things. And in our case, the things that changed and the things that we had to consider while we worked on the following were like this. So first of all, some people left because they wanted to look for opportunities elsewhere. But of course, that always happens in game dev, so it wasn't new to us. It wasn't surprising to us. But because of the success of the game, lots of new people came. So we got that influx of new people, we got lots of new blood, but maybe slightly less experience. At the same time, the game went global. And when your game is global and when your game is successful globally, people from abroad get interested in your company and in your project. So they wanted to work for us. So we hired some people from abroad, but then we had to find a way to accommodate them. We had to find a way how to make TECHLAND a great place to be for them. Again, at the same time, the team morale was very good. Everyone was very happy about what we have achieved with Dying Light, but people also were exhausted. People were tired because we worked on the project for more than 3 years. So because of that, we had a very conservative plan for DLCs. Basically, we wanted to do what every other studio was doing. So we prepared a couple of extra missions, a couple of multiplayer skins, and we also had a very sweet very interesting DLC by the name of the Bozak Horde, which was a series of arcade challenges set in an arena. It was small, but it was very unique, very original. But at the same time, the audience for the game was growing and growing and growing and growing, and people wanted more Dying Light. So we had to deliver, and that's how Dying Light: The Following was born. So the first thing that we did, and the first thing that actually went very right, was we started talking with our community. As the audience for the game grew, we realized that we won't be able to understand the community using the methods that we used previously. So we got a community manager, a great guy by the name of Mike Napora, who came to us from Australia. So he also brought a lot of positive energy, a lot of Australian sun, and he used all of the power of internet to get our community talking, to get it engaged in our product, in our project, to make it more vocal. And he started asking them questions, what they want to see in a future DLC. So he used simple things like Facebook and Twitter polls. He used posts on game forums. He used posts on other gaming websites. He went through all of the comments on the YouTube videos, and he came back to us with a list of 5 most requested features that the community wanted. And I need to take a break. Thank you. So the top 5 most requested features were like this. People wanted more story, and actually that was the #1 request, and they wanted more open world. So that's when we realized that maybe the Bozak Horde wasn't really the best DLC to give to the people. There was nearly no story, no open world gameplay. It was cool, but it wasn't what people wanted. People also wanted things to do after they maxed out their character or when they completed the story. They also wanted, that one is quite interesting, they also wanted crossbow, because Walking Dead, presumably, and they also wanted more guns, because, I don't know, Call of Duty probably. So we looked at that list, and we decided that we want to give people what they wanted in the following. So because they wanted more story and more open world, we decided that the next DLC, that the following should be a huge narrative-driven expansion set on a new map, which gave players lots of opportunities for open world gameplay, lots of activities to do. Because they wanted things to do after they maxed out their character, and things to do when they completed the story. We created 2 things. The first of those things was bounties. It was a set of small challenges that changed daily, so they gave players... Okay. So they gave players reasons to go back each day to the game. And the second one was the legend levels, which was a series of 250 additional levels they could get to upgrade their character even further. And also they wanted crossbow, so of course we gave them the crossbow, and we created some sequences which supported stealth approach. The base game didn't really support being stealthy, it didn't really support using a very silent weapon, so we created some sequences with stealth approach in mind specifically for the following. And they also wanted more guns, so we gave them more guns, and to support that we also changed the balance of the gun gameplay in Dying Light. So we made the guns more powerful, we made the ammo more easily available, and we also made it so the guns made less noise, so they didn't draw the attention of zombies as much as in the base game. But we knew it's not enough. We knew that those 5 features will not really make a great DLC, and because we thought that we need one big feature, something that will really make the following stand out. And for that one big feature to work, it needed to have following characteristics. And these characteristics are: the one big feature has to be new, so it must offer something that wasn't there in the base game at all. It also must be different, because the new thing that it offers must be unlike other things that were there in the base game. So if you had guns in your base game, then rocket launcher wouldn't do. It had to be game-changing, it has to be game-changing, so this could influence players to change how they approach the game. This could influence players to change the game loop. But to make the feature game-changing, it also needs to be substantial. So it needs to influence all of the other systems of the game. And it also needs to be fitting. So it means it needs to fit the overall theme and overall theme and setting and gameplay of the base game. So because the one big feature has to have all of these characteristics, we thought a little and we came up with the conclusion that the one big feature for us could be vehicles. And that was quite easy because vehicles also appeared on the list of things people wanted from Dying Light. Maybe it wasn't in the top 5, but it was up there. People really asked for vehicles and they wanted to drive over zombies with cars, with buggies, with vehicles basically. But we also had some very basic driving model and a very basic version of the map that later became the map from the following, which we created for the base game, but we decided that we want to cut it because we thought it doesn't really fit the base game. So we had some preliminary work done on the driving model and a map that later became the following, and we decided we want to use that and introduce vehicles in the following. And vehicles were really the one big feature for us. They were new because there was no driving in the base game. They were different because the things that players did in the base game weren't similar to driving at all. It was game-changing because it influenced the game loop. It forced players to change what they were doing, and it was substantial because we made it substantial. So we decided that each player should have his own car. To tie the player with the car more, we decided that the player will be able to customize this car and will be able to upgrade this car to make the car the extension of the player. And we also created a dedicated skill tree and some crafting systems to support the car gameplay. So basically, players had to use that car, use the buggy, and that made the feature substantial. And it was also fitting, because for me, Dying Light is a game about mobility and freedom of movement. And of course, vehicles give you just that. And the next big thing that went really right was the story. And this is the thing that I'm actually very proud of, because we really needed to change how our studio worked to achieve a story as good as the one in the following. When I came to TECHLAND 3 years ago, I quickly learned that TECHLAND is a very gameplay-focused company. The motto for the company could be "Gameplay is king." And we knew how to make the second-to-second, moment-to-moment gameplay exciting, immersive. We knew how to make that work. The story was quite often just a second thought for us, an afterthought. And we really didn't pay that much attention to the story. But when you start looking at the interviews, at the reviews of your game, and those reviews say that the gameplay is perfect, but the story is just okay, and you see that this review ends with a 8.0 note, you start thinking that maybe if you improve the story, you will get those 9s and you will get those 10s. And we wanted to get as high scores as possible for the following, so we decided that we want to really put some focus on the story. And to do that, we changed how we approach the mission design, the quest design. So previously, the missions were mostly done by level designers. These guys knew how to create all of the tools that they have, like things like combat with the enemies, boss fights, traversal puzzles, logical puzzles, into great, immersive, surprising, twisting missions. But quite often, they only worked with very simple elements of the story, only sketch of the story. They knew how the mission should start, they knew how the mission should end, and maybe they knew some bits that happen in between, but most of the things, most of the events that happened in a mission were done by level designers. And were done by level designers because they wanted to create as good experience in the gameplay terms as possible. But we knew that this is wrong, and to change this, we created a new team within our studio, and the team is called the narrative design team. So we got the old writers that we had, we hired some new ones, and hi, new writer. We have one of them in the front row here, and we made the narrative design team a part of the whole production. So now when we approach quest design or mission design, the level designers and the narrative designers have to work hand in hand. So for example, when a level designer has an idea for a great mission with some great gameplay, he has to come to the narrative design team and talk with those guys and ask them if they see any way for that mission to fit the overall narrative, if they think that this mission can support the narrative, if the narrative design team has any ideas how to make that more interesting, more surprising, more engaging. And at the same time, when a narrative design team has some story elements that it needs to put in the game, these guys need to go to the level designers and tell them that they need these story elements in the game, and if the level designers have any ideas how they can support that with gameplay. And we also came to the conclusion during the work on Dying Light the following, that everything is narrative. So basically every element of the game should go through the narrative team, the narrative design team. And I mean really every element, things like environmental storytelling, things like the UI design, the look of the quest logs, the mission logs, things like collectibles, even some game design elements need to be approved by the narrative design team, so they make sure that those elements fit the narrative of the whole game and they support the narrative of the whole game. But of course, not everything went right. These were the three things that went really well for us, but not everything went right. And the biggest thing that went wrong was actually quite surprising for us, because the game wasn't that fun to play for a very long time. And that was surprising because we thought we have all of the elements required for a great game. We had a fast driving buggy, we had a buggy that could go off-road, we had lots of zombies to kill, so basically what more could you ask for, right? But the game wasn't really that fun to play. You could play it for 5 minutes, it was okay-ish for those 5 minutes, but then after 10 minutes, after 15 minutes you got bored and you didn't really want to play it. And we started looking at the following and started thinking, where's the problem? Started analyzing the things that we had in the game and started thinking how we can improve them. What was missing? And quite soon we realized that the thing that was missing was the challenge. And to be more precise, we found out that the thing that was missing was the challenge in the driving sequences, driving sections of the game. So when you left your vehicle, it was as difficult, as challenging as the base game. But when you were in the vehicle, our one big feature, everything was just too easy. You could go very fast from point A to point B. You could reach your destination using any shortcuts you wanted because you could go off-road. And you could also kill lots of zombies without any cost. So the first zombie that you killed, the first time when you hit a zombie with your buggy, it was a wow moment. But then the second one wasn't really that exciting, the third one was even less exciting, and the 100th zombie that you have killed with your buggy was just something you did, it wasn't exciting at all. And you have great games only when you put set of challenges in front of the players and give them means to overcome them. So we did just that. We decided that we need to add challenge to the game, and we did that by nerfing the buggy. So the first thing that we did, we slowed down the buggy very much. So for the first few days after that change, we even thought that maybe it is not as good decision as we thought it should be, because the game got very sluggish. It was very slow. It wasn't the game that we were used to, that we have played for many previous weeks. But we decided to stick with it, and after some time it clicked. We also decided that going off-road should damage the buggy, and it should also slow down the buggy even more. So it wasn't possible to make shortcuts at the beginning of the game. You just had to stick to the roads, but you could change that by earning upgrades for your car. And another thing that we did was we added cost to hitting zombies, to driving over zombies. So when you hit a zombie, your buggy got damaged a little, and if you hit two of them, it got damaged even more. And you constantly had to think if it's okay to really go kill those zombies, if it's okay to plow through zombie hordes with your buggy, because there was a cost attached to it. And of course, it wasn't instantly a hit. It wasn't it didn't click instantly. But after some balancing, after some fine-tuning, we found out all of the settings that made it really work. And then everything clicked, and after some time the game got really better, and we had that sorted out. But when we had that sorted out, we realized that our one big feature, the buggy, is not really working that well with most of the systems that we had in our game. So just to give you an idea, imagine that in the base game, the player speed, the speed of the player was 7 meters per second. So player moved with a speed of 7 meters per second. So we tuned all of our systems, our AI systems, our network systems, our co-op systems to that speed. But in Dying Light the following, the player was able to move with much greater speed. He could move at 20 meters per second, and maybe even faster if he used nitro or upgraded his car. So for example, we had this one enemy whose job was to change direction to the player and speed up the player, and he worked perfectly in Dying Light in the base game. But in Dying Light the following, before the enemy could change direction to the player moved so far away that he wasn't a valid target anymore. So we had to change some things in that regard. And for the enemy I'm talking about, we just made it so he spawns already facing the player. So that gave him that extra second so he could attack the player. And there were lots of AI stuff, lots of network stuff, lots of co-op stuff that we had to solve because of the speed of the player, but that's mostly a technical stuff, mostly a programmer stuff, and I'm not really that fluent in the technical language, so I invite you all to visit our programmers at the TECHLAND booth on the other side of the street. But there were also some design decisions, design problems that we had to take to make sure that buggy works with the other systems that we had in the game. And one of the fears, one of the biggest fears that we had in the game was that buggy could kill our natural movement system. It could kill parkour, and parkour was the thing that made Dying Light special, that made Dying Light a unique experience. And for some time, it really was that way, because people started driving the buggies and they forgot that they can leave the car, they can use parkour to climb over fences, to climb on top of buildings. And there was this fear that Dying Light with the following will lose its uniqueness. So again, we introduced a couple of solutions, and these solutions were meant to reinforce and support parkour in Dying Light the following. So the first thing that we did is we introduced obligatory parkour sequences in story missions. So for example, the game opens with a parkour sequence where you have to reach the bottom of the valley, going on a cliff and making lots of jumps and climbs and stuff like that. We also have a very parkour heavy section in the latter part of the game where you have to climb a hill to get some vital piece of information that's located on that hill. But of course that wasn't enough. So then we decided that every loot place, every place where player can leave the car and get something interesting, get something valuable, should also support parkour, should have at least a very minimal natural movement element added to it. So if there was a farm, we added a fence around it. If there was a building, we closed the doors and windows on the first floor, so the players had to climb on top of the building to get inside the building through the second floor or through the rooftop. If there was an antenna or if there was a water silo, we made that antenna or that water silo a parkour puzzle. So people had to find their way to reach the top of that object, to reach the top of that structure, and very often there was something of value to them at the top of it. We also added some natural movement zones where you could travel only with parkour. So for example, we had this seaside town, lots of rooftops, lots of buildings close to each other. So basically it was like a mini Dying Light, mini classic Dying Light on the countryside map that we had in the following. But for a very long time, it was very easy to just drive with your buggy to that city, park in the middle of it, and just leave the car, go inside the building, get whatever you wanted, go back to the car, and then leave the seaside town. So we decided at some point to close the seaside town, so it was inaccessible by buggies, so you had to use parkour to get there. There were also some hives, places where the night zombies from our game were hatched, where were also structured that they support parkour heavily. But it still wasn't enough, so we made another decision, and perhaps the most controversial one, that every time when you died, we respawned you without your car. So you had to go to your car on your feet, using parkour, to get that car back. But of course, it wasn't easy to support parkour when you have a flat countryside map with lots of fields, lots of flat spaces. So we have to come up with some objects, some ideas that could make parkour feasible on on that map, on that kind of map, on that kind of space. And we came up with the idea of parkour highways, where we used lots of the things that you can find on regular fields and in the countryside, and we put them in a sequence, so you could, if you just jumped on one, you could continue doing parkour by jumping from one object to another. So as you can see, there are some walls on which you can climb. Then you can jump on the hay bales. Then from the hay bales you can jump on the pipe, and then from the pipe you can jump on the wall fence again. So you can really create a nice parkour flow in that kind of environment. So we had some problems, we tried to solve them, but it was actually a lot of work. And the third thing that went wrong was the fact that we have underestimated the size of the following. So the first mistake that we made in that regard was the one that we really couldn't avoid. We announced the expansion pack quite early. It was in June 2015. And we had to do it because people asked us for more Dying Light. People wanted to know what's going to happen to the game and what's going to happen to the universe we created. But thankfully, we didn't announce the release date for the expansion pack. Though internally in the studio, we wanted to release the game initially in Q3 2015. But then we started working on it, and all of the problems that I have just talked about popped out, and we realized that we will not be able to deliver the game in that period of time. Especially we came to that conclusion right at the beginning of August, right before Gamescom, because the Gamescom demo took a lot of resources that we were supposed to use for the production, but we had to create the best demo possible, and for that we spent a lot of time, a lot of man work. So basically, we knew then after the Gamescom demo that we will not be able to ship the game in Q3 2015. So we made the tough call, we made the tough decision to postpone the release of the game, to release the game in Q1 2016. And first we announced the news to the team. Because I said the team was quite exhausted, and the idea that they could work on the following for the next few months wasn't really that exciting for them. We laid out a solid plan for the rest of the production for the team, so the team knew what was coming. And the team took it quite well, because they also knew what state the game was in, and because they had a very solid plan for what's going to happen. I think they accepted the bad news, the sour news. But then came the harder thing to do, and the harder thing to do was the fact that we had to announce this to the community, and it wasn't going to be easy because we also had to increase the price of the following. So the price of the expansion pack went from $15 to $20, and for the season pack it went from $20 to $30, and we knew that people are not going to be happy about that. So we gave it some thought, and we decided that if you want to do it correctly, we should treat people with care and respect, and we should be open about the reasons, and we should give them some time to prepare for the price change. So we did just that. We announced the we announced the release date and the price increase in end of November 2015, and gave people about 2 weeks to decide if they want to buy the season pass or the expansion pack before December 8th, where the price was expected to go up. And of course, not everyone was happy, but I think the community took that quite well as well. And what validated the idea and that approach to announcing the increase in price was the fact that a few weeks later Bethesda did the same thing with Fallout 4 expansions. So these were 3 things that went right and 3 things that went wrong. But actually there's one more thing, and that thing went perfect, at least in my opinion. And the thing that went perfect, the thing that I saved for the last as a cherry on top, was the team that worked on Dying Light the Following. And I like to joke that the T in TECHLAND logo stands for the team. I don't know what our CEO, Paweł Majewka, thinks about it, but anyways, for me, TECHLAND is a place where great people work and great people cooperate. And we had a really great team on the following, and without that team we wouldn't able to complete the project. But of course we did some things to help the team achieve what they did. And the first thing we did was introducing the Google communities. And actually that's a very simple tool that helped us a lot. Because when you work on a huge project like Dying Light or Dying Light the Following, it's very hard to get a credible, updated, complete source of information for the project. And Google Plus community gave us just that. We asked people to report everything that they were doing at the end of the day on the Google Plus community web page. So instantly, we got a source of information of what is happening on the project, and it also helped in some other ways, because it also helped with team morale. It boosted the team morale, because every time when you posted something on the Google Plus community, people could vote on it. People could say, hey man, you did a great job. And that really worked. That really helped with the morale. Another thing that we benefited from introducing Google Plus communities was the fact that now everyone could comment on what other people were doing, and everyone could have an idea that we could use for the following or for any of other project that we were doing. And that was very important because, as Chris said just before me, it's not always easy for people who work on the project to express their ideas and to be able to reach the people that make the decisions with their ideas. And with Google Plus community is much easier. But another important thing that we did with the following was the fact that we decided that we want to follow some of the team ideas. And for example, there's this feature of the following, which are the freaks, huge Uber bosses that you have to find, which weren't actually included in the initial design for the following. But one of our level designers came up with that idea. We really liked it. We gave him some time to work on it, and we really liked it, and we saved it for the game. The same goes for the buggy challenges. Most of them were created, and even some ideas for the types of challenges were created by our level designers. So with the following, we really wanted to play with to the team's strengths. So for example, we had one guy who really is a car enthusiast. He loves everything that has an engine and some wheels on it. So he loves cars, he loves motorcycles. So we decided that he should do the buggy model. And he got engaged. He got so engaged in that that he put some extra effort to it. He created some extra customizations options for the buggy, and he did it because he wanted his buggy to be as good in the final game as possible. The same thing goes with the guns. We had a gun enthusiast in our studio, and we asked him to create the guns. So he did all of the new firearms that we have introduced in Dying Light the Following. And another thing that we did was we gave the team some space to play. We knew that they were tired, we knew that they were exhausted, so we wanted them to have some fun with the project. So one example of that, at some point of the production, some of the team members asked us to introduce chickens to the game. So everyone wanted chickens. Of course, they made sense because the game happens in the countryside. There are chickens on the countryside. So yeah, we should do chickens. But they wanted to do chickens that were really sophisticated chickens. So they wanted players to be able to shoot those chickens or chase those chickens. And that takes time. That takes effort. That takes a lot of work. So we said, hey, it's a good idea, but maybe we'll save it for the last when the rest of the project is complete. But these guys started rooting for the chickens, and suddenly this happened. Oh, sorry. Suddenly this happened. Yeah. So as you can see, when people started reporting what they did each day, they started putting chickens on those reports. So this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and chickens became a running joke for the whole team. And to be honest, there are no chickens, at least not in the way that people wanted that, but because this idea of chickens in the game and that joke came about, I think it really helped to bond the team and make the team more engaged in the whole project. So when one of our level designers suggested that maybe we should do a Easter egg day, or to be honest, an Easter egg Saturday, because it was supposed to take place on a free day on Saturday, where everyone could come to the studio and create some Easter eggs for the game, people were so engaged in the project that really lots of people showed up. And knowing our fixations with the chickens, you shouldn't be surprised that one of the Easter eggs was something like this. I hope there's sound, because sound is very important. Why it's not working? Great, okay. Just give me a second. There's no sound. So, as I said, there are no chickens in the game. Okay, because I really want all of you to see this. As always, technical difficulties. So what you will see in a moment, I hope, is one of the Easter eggs that, as I said, involves chickens. And it's work of a few developers who even rented their voices to the sequence. Okay, so we have voice, but we don't have visuals. So maybe we'll just wait for the movie a little bit and maybe let's turn the presentation and we'll show the movie at the end, because there's one more slide. Okay, so you will see chickens at the end. You will see that Easter egg at the end of the presentation. And now the last slide, the wrap-up, quick wrap-up. So here are the 7 tips that we took from work on Dying Light the following, and these are the tips that I think should work, I believe should work for every other DLC that happens to be done for a huge project as big as Dying Light was. And the first tip is listen to your community. Of course, it's obvious, but these people really know what they want, and it's quite easy to forget that we make games for those people. So it's very important to listen to the community and understand exactly what they want from your DLC. Then the thing that you have to do is you have to top-notch the thing that the community wants most. And for us, it was the story, so we put extra effort to make story as good as possible. You also have to add to the expansion pack your one big feature that would really make the DLC stand out, that it really make it special. If you approach DLC, you have to remember to keep or even up the challenge from the base game, because most of the people that will be playing the DLC are people that played the base game already. You have to remember to keep the essence of what made the base game special, even if you introduce things like the one big feature and other content that you put in the DLC. And the most important thing is that you always need to plan big. DLCs always takes more time than it's initially planned. So you have to put extra effort, put aside extra resources, extra time, and extra teams to create a good DLC. And because DLCs are something that you do after the main game, and the team is probably quite tired, exhausted with the work on one project, you should let the team have some fun, so they will deliver to you the best DLC possible. And that wraps my presentation. We'll see about the movie, and if you have any questions now, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, so waiting for the chickens, does anyone have a question or comment? Because I would like to start with a question. Oh, there's something going on. I would like to start with a question. Is from your perspective.
Hello, mister! Wow, hello! What you got inside? Yes, hello! Doctor!
Okay.
Finally. Thank you very much. Going back to your question.
It was worth it, those chickens. From your perspective, how important is to have on the DLC team people that were like in this basic game team? Obviously, the team will be smaller. Probably some lead designers will have new assignments, stuff like that. So, is there any rule or suggestion you would give to the teams in this matter of creating the team for DLC?
Okay, so what worked for us was the fact that we involved the new people that came to TECHLAND, to our company after the release of Dying Light, in the process of making Dying Light the following. So those people had new levels of energy, new ideas, but they also were slightly less experienced, at least some of them. But because we used the veteran developers and the new developers on the team, they were able to share. The new guys shared their ideas, shared their energy, and of course the people that worked on the base project, on the base game, were able to share their experience and all of the things that they learned while they did that. So that worked for us, and I think that's the best approach to creating teams working on DLCs.
Awesome, thank you. Any question from the side? Yeah.
How long it takes you to do the research to get good feedback from the community?
Well, actually, it's not that long, because we started doing this after the release of Dying Light, so we also had lots of comments, lots of things put on the internet already. But then we wanted what precisely we want from the community. We wanted answers to the question what they want from our future DLC. So we just started asking them these questions. And when you start asking the community very direct questions, you get very quickly answers that you want. So basically that's maybe a matter of a week or so.
Okay, so asking honest question, then you get the answers. So now honest questions or comments regarding this. Oh, okay, why not?
If you asked for an honest question, what's better in your opinion, rap or the game development?
I know where this one comes from. Well, right now I must say it's game development. Rapping is good, but game development is better.
So I will have a question that will probably finalize our session. Of course, for most of our guests, participants of the conference, doing DLC is nothing that they would do in this closest time. They are like indie developers or small production companies, but still, is it something in doing the DLC, a learning experience that you would share, that say that, okay, for now you will not have a possibility to work in a team like that, but the most important lessons I took personally from working is something, like this?
Well, the biggest thing that I personally learned from the process of doing the following was the fact that it is the sixth point from the list of 7 tips that I gave. You really need to think of DLCs as, you cannot think of DLCs as small projects because they never turn out to be small projects. You want to, and actually that's what happened to us. We wanted the following at the beginning. We just thought it will be an easy work for us, something we will quickly be able to complete and publish in maybe a matter of 2 or 3 months. But then we realized that it never is that way. And especially when you have a successful game, you start thinking that you really need to deliver the highest quality possible. So, and you need to deliver the highest production values possible. And that really changes how you approach the project. And it's not an easy, quick task to do, not something that you complete in 2 months. It's something that you really have put extra effort, extra work to make it good.
Okay, and aside of Dying Light, what is your favorite DLC to any game in the world, you know?
Wow, that's a hard one. So I'd say it's the BioShock 2 DLC, the one with the steampunk AI that governs the subsection of the colony. That was a good one. I don't remember the name of it from the top of my head, but okay, that was a good one.
But still quite personal. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much.
Let's applaud this awesome session.